If you don't like spooky tales but still drive at night, then listen closely. This story's for you. Imagine the darkness of the night wrapping around you, the only light coming from your truck's headlights piercing through the fog. The road ahead seems endless and the forest on either side feels like it's closing in. This is the setting for our tale. Meet Jake, a truck driver with a spine of steel. Jake had been driving trucks for over a decade and he thought he had seen it all. From treacherous mountain roads to endless desert highways, nothing fazed him. But this night would be different. This night would test his courage in ways he never imagined. Jake was on a solo delivery to Arizona, a route he had taken many times before. The night was unusually quiet and the air was thick with an eerie silence. He decided to stop at a roadside diner for a quick meal, a place he had visited many times. The diner was almost empty, with just a few truckers and the waitress who knew him by name. He had his usual meal, exchanged a few words with the waitress, and then hit the road again. As he drove away from the diner, the darkness seemed to wrap around him like a heavy blanket. The road was deserted and the only sound was the hum of his truck's engine. Jake felt a chill run down his spine, but he shrugged it off as just the cold night air. He turned up the radio, hoping some music would break the eerie silence. A few miles down the highway, Jake saw something that made his heart skip a beat. An overturned truck lay in the middle of the road, its headlights still on, piercing the night. He pulled over to help, his mind racing with thoughts of what could have happened. As he approached the truck, he noticed that there was no one inside. The cab was empty and the windshield was shattered. The front end of the truck was demolished, but there was no sign of the driver. Jake's first thought was that the driver might have been thrown from the truck. He grabbed his flashlight and started searching the area. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing broken glass and twisted metal, but no blood, no driver, nothing. It was as if the driver had vanished into thin air. Jake's heart pounded in his chest as he tried to make sense of the scene before him. He called his boss, who told him to report the accident to the police. As he headed back to his truck to make the call, he stepped on something soft. He looked down and saw a body, blood-stained and lifeless. His heart raced as he realized what he had found. The driver was dead, lying in a pool of blood. Jake's hands trembled as he dialed the police, his mind reeling from the shock. As he waited for the police to arrive, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him. He grabbed his flashlight and scanned the area, his heart pounding in his chest. The beam of light revealed blood everywhere, but no sign of what had caused the accident. Then he heard a rustle in the bushes. He turned the flashlight towards the sound, and his blood ran cold. Two glowing red eyes stared at him from the forest. They were unlike anything he had ever seen, filled with a menacing intelligence that sent shivers down his spine. Jake's mind raced as he tried to comprehend what he was seeing. Was it an animal, a person, something else entirely? The eyes seemed to bore into his soul, and he felt a primal fear that he had never experienced before. Before he could react, a monstrous creature emerged from the forest. It was towering at least 10 feet tall, with a hulking frame and claws that looked like they could tear through steel. The creature let out a guttural roar that echoed through the night, and Jake knew he had to get out of there. He sprinted to his truck, his heart pounding in his chest, and started it up. The engine roared to life and he tore down the highway like a bat out of hell. As he sped away, he glanced in his rearview mirror and saw the creature standing in the middle of the road, watching him. Its glowing red eyes were the last thing he saw before he rounded a bend and lost sight of it. Jake's hands were shaking as he gripped the steering wheel, his mind racing with thoughts of what he had just witnessed. He knew that he had to keep driving, to put as much distance between himself and that creature as possible. When he finally reached a truck stop, he pulled over and tried to calm his racing heart. He called his boss again and told him what had happened, but he could tell that his boss didn't believe him. The police arrived at the scene of the accident, but they found no trace of the creature. The only evidence was the overturned truck and the lifeless body of the driver. Jake knew what he had seen, but he also knew that no one would believe him. The experience haunted Jake for the rest of his life. He couldn't shake the image of those glowing red eyes or the sound of the creature's roar. He avoided that route from then on, always taking a longer way to avoid the stretch of highway where he had encountered the beast. He never drove alone at night again, always making sure to have a co-driver with him. The memory of that night stayed with him, a constant reminder of the terror he had faced. Was it a beast? A demon? Jake never found out, but one thing was for sure. He would never forget that night. The darkness, the overturned truck, the lifeless body, and the monstrous creature that had charged at him. It was a night that changed him forever, a night that made him question everything he thought he knew about the world. Jake's story became a legend among truck drivers, a cautionary tale told around campfires and in truck stops. Some believed him while others thought it was just a tall tale, but Jake knew the truth. He had seen the beast with his own eyes, and he would never forget the terror he had felt. The memory of that night stayed with him, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurks in the world. So if you ever find yourself driving down a dark, lonely highway at night, remember Jake's story. Keep your eyes on the road and be aware of your surroundings. You never know what might be lurking in the darkness, waiting to make its presence known. And if you ever see glowing red eyes staring at you from the forest, don't stop. Keep driving and don't look back. Jake survived that night, but it haunted him forever. The memory of the beast, the lifeless body, and the darkness that seemed to close in around him. It was a night that changed him, a night that made him question everything he thought he knew. But he kept driving, kept moving forward, always aware of the darkness that lurked just beyond the reach of his headlights. Was it a beast? A demon? Or something else entirely? Jake never found out, but one thing was for sure, he would never forget that night. The darkness, the overturned truck, the lifeless body, and the monstrous creature that had charged at him. It was a night that changed him forever, a night that made him question everything he thought he knew about the world. One thing's for sure, Jake never drove that route alone again. The memory of that night stayed with him, a constant reminder of the terror he had faced. So if you ever find yourself driving down a dark, lonely highway at night, remember Jake's story, keep your eyes on the road, and be aware of your surroundings. You never know what might be lurking in the darkness, waiting to make its presence known.